performer of electronic dance music died Friday. Avicii, whose real name was Tim Berling, was 28 years old. His publicist says the Swedish DJ and producer died in Muscat, Oman.
In a quiet room in Stockholm, bathed in the glow of a computer screen, a story was beginning. It wasn't a story of sudden fame, but of a slow, burning passion. A young man, blonde hair falling over his headphones, lost in a world of his own making. Here, in the solitude of his bedroom, Tim Berling was discovering the language of music, a language that would soon speak to millions. The city outside slept, but inside, a new sound was being born, crafted from digital beats and fragments of melody. Each click of the mouse, each adjustment of a synth, was a step into the unknown. He was just a boy with a laptop, but within him was the seed of a revolution. The nights in Stockholm blended into one another, a cycle of creation and discovery. He would spend countless hours hunched over his equipment, surrounded by the humble tools of his trade. Friends would come and go, collaborators sharing in the raw energy of his basement studio sessions, their voices echoing against walls plastered with posters. The city itself became a part of his soundtrack, the rumble of the subway, the murmur of the streets, all feeding into the complex tapestry of his sound. Soon, the digital world was no longer enough. The small, dimly lit clubs of the city became his proving grounds. He stood behind the decks, a quiet, almost shy figure, but the music he played was anything but. It was explosive, euphoric, a wave of emotion that crashed over the small crowds, their hands reaching for the pulsing lights, as if trying to touch the sound itself. The whispers grew louder, spreading from Stockholm to the world. The small clubs gave way to festival stages, the intimate crowds swelling into oceans of people. The first major concerts were a baptism by fire. Flashing lights sliced through the darkness, illuminating a sea of faces, all turned towards him, all singing his melodies back to him. The energy was electric, a symbiotic exchange between the artist and his audience. He was no longer just Tim. He was Avicii, a name that echoed in stadiums across continents. The journey became a blur of airports, tour buses, and unfamiliar cities. The visuals changed from the cobblestone streets of his hometown to the sprawling skylines of global capitals. But the rhythm remained the same: create, perform, travel, repeat. Behind the dazzling lights and the roar of the crowd, a different story was unfolding. The relentless pace began to take its toll. We see him in transit, staring out of a car window, the world a fast-moving smudge of color. The exhaustion is etched on his face, a stark contrast to the ecstatic energy he projects on stage. These were the moments in between, the quiet, unseen chapters of his meteoric rise. He was a young man, navigating an overwhelming new reality, driven by an unyielding determination to push his music, and himself, to the absolute limit. Every performance was a monumental effort, a piece of his soul given to the world, leaving him increasingly drained but relentlessly pushing forward, chasing a dream that was now chasing him. The endless tour culminates not in a grand finale, but in a moment of profound quiet. In a sterile hotel room, somewhere on the other side of the world, the music finally stops. The adrenaline of the show has faded, leaving only the hum of the air conditioner and the distant sound of a city that never sleeps. He stands by the window, a solitary figure silhouetted against the dawn. Soft sunlight filters through the thin curtains, casting long, somber shadows across the room. It's a moment of reflection, a silent reckoning with the dream he so relentlessly pursued. The camera pulls back slowly, leaving him alone with his thoughts, the vastness of the room and the city beyond creating a palpable sense of isolation. A quiet suspense hangs in the air, a question mark at the end of a triumphant but taxing chapter, leaving us to wonder what comes next when the biggest dream in the world finally comes true. Scene opens with a massive, roaring crowd. Lasers cut through the darkness, illuminating a sea of faces. On a vast stage, a young man with blonde hair, wearing a simple hoodie, stands behind a DJ deck. He raises his hands, and the crowd erupts. The music is thunderous, a wave of pure energy. He was the sound of a generation, a name whispered in clubs and shouted from festival fields. From the quiet of his bedroom to the deafening roar of the main stage, his ascent was a blur of light and sound. The world saw a prodigy, a golden boy who could command tens of thousands with the drop of a beat. They saw the smile, the energy, the effortless connection he forged with every soul in the crowd. They saw the dream, realized in a blaze of glory under the bright, unforgiving lights. But behind the spectacle, A different story was unfolding, one written in the quiet, lonely moments between the shows. Cut to a montage of fast-paced travel. An airplane window showing clouds rushing by. A suitcase being dragged down a long, sterile airport corridor. A black car speeding through slick, rain-soaked city streets at night. The world outside is a smear of neon and motion. The DJ is seen slumping in the back seat, the city lights reflecting in his tired eyes. The life became a repeating loop of airports, hotel rooms, and stages. Each city blended into the next, a collection of anonymous hallways, lit by the same quiet, yellow light. The applause from one night would still be ringing in his ears as he rushed to catch a flight to the next. The faces in the crowd, once a source of infinite energy, began to blur into a single, demanding entity. Backstage, the euphoria of the performance would evaporate almost instantly, replaced by a profound, hollow exhaustion. He'd sit in a sterile dressing room, the thunderous bass still vibrating in his bones, and feel utterly, completely alone. The smile that had electrified a stadium just moments before would vanish, leaving behind a young man looking lost in the machine he had helped to build. Scene shifts to a quiet, dimly lit hotel room. The DJ sits on the edge of the bed, head in his hands. His headphones lay beside him, silent. He takes slow, deep breaths, his chest rising and falling. The frame is tight, intimate. In the solitude of these countless hotel rooms, the silence was louder than any crowd. It was here that the real cost began to show. The pressure, a constant, crushing weight, manifested not just in his mind, but in his body. The relentless travel, the lack of sleep, the anxiety of delivering perfection night after night, it all began to take its toll. The vibrant energy the world saw on stage was a facade, maintained at a devastating personal price. He found himself trying to quiet a storm that was raging inside, taking deep breaths in the dark, hoping to find a moment of peace that never seemed to last. The music, once his escape, now felt like a cage. Gentle, respectful shots. A doctor in a white coat calmly speaks to him, his expression one of concern. A close-up of a hand reaching for a glass of water next to several pill bottles on a nightstand. A fleeting shot of him clutching his stomach, his face etched with a quiet pain. The scene soft-focused and brief. His body began to send distress signals he could no longer ignore. The sharp, persistent pain became an unwelcome companion on the road. Doctors' visits became as much a part of the tour schedule as sound checks. The consultations were quiet, the diagnoses complex, pointing to a system overwhelmed by stress. The array of medicines on his bedside table was a stark, silent testament to the battle he was fighting away from the public eye. Each pill was a small, desperate attempt to hold himself together, to keep the show going, to not let the cracks show. He was trying to heal a wound that wasn't visible, a pain born from the very thing that had brought him so much fame. A rapid montage of media, newspaper headlines proclaiming him a global sensation, social media feeds filled with praise and adoration, magazine covers with his smiling face. Intercut these with shots of him looking increasingly weary, his eyes dark with fatigue, as if the praise were a physical weight. While his body and spirit were breaking, his legend only grew. The world celebrated him, with ever-increasing fervor. The headlines got bigger, the accolades more prestigious. The social media metrics soared into the stratosphere. Every post, every story, every celebratory article painted a picture of untouchable success. But with each new wave of praise, he seemed to recede further into himself. The disconnect between the public icon and the private individual became a chasm. He was a hero to millions, but inside, he was a young man struggling to simply get through the day, watching the world celebrate a version of him that he no longer recognized. The camera is inside a car, moving through a city at night. The focus is on the DJ's face, his eyes staring out the window, reflecting the passing city lights. The expression is distant, lost. The music is a low, melancholic synth pad. The drives between the hotel and the venue became moments of strange, detached observation. The city lights streaked past, beautiful and distant, much like the life he was now living. In those fleeting moments, suspended between the solitude of his room and the chaos of the stage, his eyes would hold a profound emptiness. He was surrounded by light, by life, by the vibrant energy of the metropolis, yet he appeared to be a ghost passing through it all. He was looking at the world, but it was unclear if he was seeing anything at all. Lost in a silent conversation with himself about where it had all gone wrong. Final scene. The DJ stands in his high-rise hotel room, looking out a massive floor-to-ceiling window. The sprawling city glitters below, a galaxy of golden and white lights against the dark blue night. His back is to the camera. He is perfectly still, a lone silhouette against the vast urban landscape. The shot holds for a long moment before a slow fade to black, and so he would stand, night after night, a silent sentinel watching over a world that adored him but could not see him. The city lights glowed outside, a promise of life and connection just beyond the glass. Yet he remained trapped on the inside. In the quiet of that room, with the world at his feet, he looked like a man on the edge of everything, staring out into the abyss. His posture a silent, desperate plea for an answer, for a way out, for help. The music had given him everything, and in return, it was threatening to take it all away. The world knew him as Avicii, a name synonymous with a sound that defined a generation. But behind the blinding lights and the roar of the crowd, there was Tim Bergling, a young man reaching his limit. After years of relentless touring, after more than 800 shows that blurred into a single, unending wave of sound and pressure, a decision was made. It was a quiet declaration, delivered not with defiance, but with a palpable sense of exhaustion. In front of the cameras, his voice was soft, almost a whisper against the backdrop of a life lived at maximum volume. He announced he was stepping away from the stage. The news rippled through the world, and on the faces of his fans, you could see the shock, the disbelief. For them, the music was a celebration, a source of pure joy. They couldn't see the cost. He sought solace in the quiet places of the world, trading the electric hum of the festival for the gentle murmur of nature. We see him walking alone, a solitary figure against sprawling landscapes, his feet treading softly on forest paths. He breathes deeply, a conscious effort to pull the clean, still air into his lungs, as if trying to replace the stale, recycled air of tour buses and green rooms. His search for peace became a pilgrimage. The frantic energy of the concert was replaced by the slow, rhythmic dance of ocean waves washing ashore. Sunsets painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, their silent, gradual descent a stark contrast to the abrupt, explosive drops of his music. He walked on empty beaches, the sand cool beneath his feet, the only sound the cry of a distant gull, and the steady hush of the sea. The journey was a physical one, a hopscotch across continents in a quest for tranquility. We see the world through his eyes, framed by the oval of an airplane window, clouds stretching out like a vast, soft blanket below. He stood on hotel balconies overlooking serene cityscapes and tranquil waters, a spectator to a world that was finally moving at a slower pace. He swam in the calm turquoise ocean, the water a gentle embrace. He was physically removed from the chaos, surrounded by idyllic scenes of peace. But the turmoil wasn't just external. The quiet he had so desperately craved was now a vast empty space, and in it, the echoes of his past grew louder. Even in paradise, a shadow lingered. We see him sitting quietly, a notebook open on his lap, a pen in his hand. He writes, not music, but thoughts, an attempt to untangle the complex knot of feelings within him. The camera closes in on his hand, and for a fleeting moment, we see it tremble, a subtle, physical manifestation of an inner struggle that no one else could see. His eyes, when you look closely, tell a story of their own. They are the eyes of someone who hasn't slept deeply in a very long time, carrying a weight that belies his years. He would offer a gentle smile to the people around him, a polite, almost automatic gesture. But the moment he was alone, the moment the performance of being okay was no longer required, the smile would fade, revealing a profound and haunting sadness. Soft, dreamlike flashbacks flicker the pulsating energy of a massive crowd. Hands in the air, a sea of faces illuminated by strobing lights. These memories, once the pinnacle of his success, now seemed to haunt him, reminders of a life he could no longer sustain. His journey eventually led him to the sun-drenched shores of the Maldives, an archipelago of perfect beaches and impossibly blue water. Here, the world seemed to hold its breath. The sunlight was warm and golden, filtering through the broad leaves of palm trees that swayed gently in the tropical breeze. He was with friends, people he trusted, and in their company, there were moments of lightness. We see him talking, his voice calm, the conversation unhurried. Occasionally, a genuine laugh would break through, a bright, fleeting sound that echoed the joy his music had brought to so many. But just as quickly, the laughter would subside, and he would fall silent again, his gaze drifting towards the endless horizon. He would watch the ocean for long stretches, a solitary figure dwarfed by the vastness of the water, lost in a world of his own. There was a palpable feeling of peace in these moments, a temporary truce with his inner demons. Yet, underneath it all, you could sense something heavy, an anchor of sorrow that even this perfect paradise could not lift. The final images are a quiet meditation. We see gentle slow-motion shots that capture the stillness of his footsteps imprinted on the wet sand, only to be washed away by the next wave. The clear, shallow water, lapping gently against his feet, a cool and constant caress. The wind, a soft and invisible force, rustling the palm leaves, making them whisper secrets to the sky. Every element of the natural world around him was in a state of calm, beautiful harmony. It was a world at peace, but the quiet only amplified the turmoil within his heart, a profound and heavy dissonance that could not be resolved. As the camera pulls back, slowly zooming out, the figure on the beach becomes smaller and smaller, until he is just a tiny speck against the immense, indifferent beauty of the ocean, which stretches on, vast and unending. The music fades, the lights go down, and the world becomes quiet. Far away from the roar of the crowds, Avicii travels to find silence. He is tired. The noise inside his head is louder than any festival. He needs the world to be still. He walks along the edge of a wide ocean. The waves are soft, whispering to the sand. The camera moves slowly, like a gentle breath. He walks near the water, his feet sinking just a little with each step. His steps are slow, measured. There is no rush here. The sky above is a canvas of soft, peaceful colors. He stops and takes a deep breath, filling his lungs with the clean, salty air. Another breath he is trying to let go. He sits with friends at a small cafe, nestled by the sea. The chairs are simple wood. The table is small. Everyone is relaxed, their shoulders soft. They speak in low voices, their words mixing with the sound of the distant waves. Laughter comes, but it is gentle. Sometimes, he smiles. It is a quiet smile, a fragile thing. It's the smile of someone trying to remember how. The afternoon sun is warm, casting a golden light on their faces, making the moment feel safe and real. It is a simple picture of peace, a small island of calm in a turbulent sea. He is present, but a part of him seems to be somewhere else, listening to a different kind of music, a melody only he can hear. Then, the scene shifts. The cafe is the same, the light is just as warm, but now, he is alone. The chair next to him, where a friend once sat, is empty. It feels loud in its emptiness. He looks out at the ocean, his gaze steady and quiet. The world around him is calm, a postcard of serenity. But inside, his heart feels heavy, like an anchor holding him down. The contrast is sharp. The peaceful outside and the storm within. He doesn't move. He just sits and watches the water, as if waiting for an answer to a question he has not yet formed. The world keeps turning. The waves keep rolling. But for him, time has slowed to a crawl. The first light of morning filters through thin curtains, painting soft stripes across a hotel room. It is a quiet, simple space. On a small wooden table, a notebook lies open. A pen rests beside it, next to a pair of headphones. We see his hand, moving slowly across the page, writing. The words are his escape, his confession, his map. His hand pauses mid-sentence. He lifts his head, thinking. His eyes, when we see them, are full of emotion. A deep well of feeling that words can't quite capture. A close-up holds on his eyes. They hold the memories of 1,000 nights, the echo of 1,000,000 cheers, and the weight of a silence that followed. They are the eyes of someone who has seen too much, too fast. A sudden flash. The quiet room is gone. We are thrown into a sea of cheering faces, a universe of bright, flashing concert lights. He is on stage, a silhouette against the blinding strobes, his hands raised high in the air. The energy is electric, a powerful, living thing. The bass thumps like a giant heart. The crowd moves as one. This was his world. This was his creation. Then, just as quickly, it's gone. We are back at the ocean. The calm, endless blue. The contrast is a punch to the gut. The roar and the whisper. The crowd and the solitude. The god on stage and the boy on the beach. The transition is not just a change of scene. It is a change of soul. He slips into the clear, blue water. The world above disappears. Underwater, everything is calm. The sound is muffled, distant. The movements are slow, graceful, like a ballet in slow motion. Beams of sunlight pierce the surface, dancing through the water, creating shifting patterns on the seabed. It is another world down here, a silent, beautiful kingdom. He floats on his back, eyes closed, surrendering to the gentle hold of the water. For a moment, he is weightless. The burden is lifted. The water cradles him, and he lets go. It is a baptism, a washing away, a moment of pure, untroubled peace. A brief return to innocence. He is walking again. This time, on a long, empty road that cuts through a landscape of desert hills. The sun is lower in the sky, casting long shadows. The wind moves slowly, a soft sigh across the dry land. There is nothing here but the road, the hills, and him. He is thinking. You can see it in his walk, in the way he looks at the horizon. This is not an escape. He is not running away from something. He is walking towards something. He is trying to understand himself, to piece together the person he was and the person he has become. He is searching for a truth that was lost somewhere in the noise and the lights. Night falls on the beach. The world is bathed in the soft, silver light of the moon. The waves are even slower now, a gentle, rhythmic pulse against the shore. He sits near the water's edge, a solitary figure in the vast, quiet landscape. He is still, utterly still. There are no words. There is no noise from the world of men. There is only the sound of the sea, a timeless lullaby. It is a sound of permanence, of something that was here long before him and will be here long after. He sits and listens. He is a part of the scene, a small, quiet piece of a large, quiet universe. We hold on this scene. The camera does not move. The moonlight on the water, the slow rhythm of the waves, the quiet figure on the sand. The mood is calm, but it is heavy with unspoken emotion. It is a portrait of peace, but also of loneliness. A search that may never truly end. It is beautiful and it is heartbreaking. There is no conclusion, no easy answer. There is only this moment. This quiet, endless moment by the sea. The screen holds, letting the feeling sink in, letting the silence speak. Then, a slow, gentle fade to black. There are artists who make music, and then there are souls who become music. Tim Bergling, known to the world as Avicii, was one of those rare souls. His melodies didn't just play in speakers, they lived inside people. They healed, they lifted, they held people together. But behind those beautiful sounds, there was a young man who was slowly falling apart. This is his story. He was born in Stockholm, Sweden, a quiet, thoughtful boy with deep eyes and a gentle voice. Tim wasn't loud, or flashy, or he liked being alone. He liked creating worlds inside his mind. While most kids his age were outside playing football and chasing noise, he was inside, exploring silence. His childhood bedroom was small, but in his imagination, it was endless. On his computer, he began playing with mixing programs. At first, the beats were simple, just clicks and loops. But Tim wasn't just playing with sound. He was feeling something many people never feel in a lifetime. Music, for him, wasn't entertainment. It was escape. It was home. It was the one place where the world made sense. And in those early years, he didn't dream of fame. He didn't dream of stages. He didn't dream of screaming crowds. Tim wanted only to make something beautiful. As a teenager, he released his mixes online. His username, Avicii, a word he found on the internet, meaning the lowest level of hell in Buddhist cosmology. The name was ironic. His music didn't sound like hell, it sounded like heaven. And soon, the world noticed. Producers and DJs began sharing his tracks. Music blogs picked him up, and one day, his inbox exploded. Record labels, agencies, promoters, everyone wanted him. But Tim wasn't ready for fame. He wasn't built for spotlight. He wasn't the kind of person who wanted to stand on a stage and say, "Look at me." But the music industry doesn't ask who you are. It only asks what you can give. And Avicii could give magic. So he was pushed onto stages. The crowds were massive, tens of thousands of people, lights, fireworks, smoke cannons, screams so loud they shook the floor. And there, in the center, stood a young man with a shy smile, headphones around his neck, doing what he loved, but at a cost. What the fans saw was joy. What the world saw was success. But inside Tim's chest, something was cracking. He toured constantly, city after city, night after night. No rest, no silence, no pause. His body was breaking, but he kept going. Because the world was addicted to him, and the industry knew it. In 2011, he released a track that changed everything. Levels. It was bright, powerful, hopeful like sunlight breaking through heavy clouds. The song was a revolution. Radio stations played it non-stop. It became the heartbeat of a generation. Strangers who had nothing in common shared that one melody. Weddings, festivals, parties, long car rides. Lonely Nights Levels was everywhere, and Avicii became a global icon. But behind the success, the darkness grew louder. To keep touring, he was prescribed painkillers. To stay awake, energy drinks, pills, stimulants. To fall asleep, more pills. His body began shutting down, his stomach inflamed, his organs strained. Doctors warned him, friends begged him, but the machine around him kept saying, just one more show, one more festival, one more tour. And Tim, always gentle, always giving, didn't know how to say no. Then came Wake Me Up, a song the industry said was too different, too emotional, too acoustic, too real. They said it would fail. But Tim didn't make music for the industry. He made it for the world, and the world embraced it. Wake Me Up became one of the most streamed songs on earth. Yet while millions celebrated the song, the man who made it was quietly dying inside. He was exhausted. He was anxious. He felt trapped. And worst of all, he felt misunderstood. He tried to explain, I need rest. I need time. I need peace. But when the world is addicted to your light, it never lets you go quietly. His appendix burst during a tour. He developed he could barely stand. Still, they sent him on stage. Cameras don't show pain. Crowds don't hear suffering. Success hides wounds. And Tim learned to smile through breaking bones. Until one day, he collapsed. In 2016, at the peak of his fame, when he could headline any festival, sell out any arena, shape music globally, he made a decision that shocked the world. He retired from touring. The fans were confused. The industry was angry, but Tim was simply tired of dying. He said, I have too many things I want to do with my life. But when someone has given the world too much, the world doesn't give them space to live. After retiring, Tim traveled to mountains, deserts, temples. He searched for peace. He spent time meditating, reading philosophy, looking for answers to questions most of us never ask. He was searching for himself. But peace is not always found in quiet. Sometimes, it gets louder. Without the noise of tours to distract him, Tim began feeling everything deeply, too deeply. He started thinking about life, about purpose, about suffering, about humanity. His sensitivity, the same sensitivity that made his music beautiful, began drowning him. He wasn't depressed. He was overwhelmed by the weight of existence. He saw beauty too strongly. He felt pain too intensely. He cared too deeply. Some souls aren't built for this world. They feel too much. And on April 20th, 2018, in Oman, the world lost him. The official statements were gentle. The truth was heavier. Tim took his own life, not because he wanted to die, but because he couldn't find a way to live in a world that demanded more than his heart could give. The news broke. Millions of hearts. Festivals dimmed their lights. DJs stopped their sets. People around the world played Wake Me Up and cried. Because Avicii wasn't just an artist. He was a companion to millions of lonely souls. His music was comfort during heartbreak. His melodies were sunlight on dark days. His songs were memories, first loves, long drives, summer nights, laughter, and tears. He left, but his sound remained. Avicii once said, one day, you'll leave this world behind, so live a life you will remember. He did, but he gave so much of his life to make ours more beautiful. And maybe, that's what makes his story both tragic and extraordinary. He didn't just make music, he changed people. He stitched broken hearts. He healed silent pain. And even though he is gone, his music still carries him every beat, every chord, every chorus. Tim is still here, not in the spotlight, not on a stage, but in the lives he touched. And that is the kind of immortality the world never forgets. When news of Avicii's death spread across the world, time felt like it stopped. For millions, it didn't feel like they had lost a famous artist. It felt like they had lost someone they personally knew. His music had been there during heartbreaks, during nights when the world felt too heavy, during celebrations, during quiet moments when someone felt alone. And now, the voice behind that comfort had gone silent. In Stockholm, fans gathered in the streets. They didn't plan it. They just arrived. Young, old, strangers from different backgrounds, standing shoulder to shoulder. There were no speeches, no stage, no microphones. Just speakers. They played his music. Wake Me Up levels the nights. Hey Brother. And thousands of people sang. Together, under the open sky. Some cried, some closed their eyes, some held each other. The city felt like it was mourning a family member, because in a way, it was. But while the fans mourned publicly, the people closest to Tim were facing a different kind of grief. His parents, his siblings, his childhood friends, they didn't know him as Avicii. They knew him as Tim, quiet, thoughtful, soft-spoken, with a shy laugh and gentle presence. And now they were left with questions that have no answers. What more could we have done? How much pain was he hiding? Why didn't the world hear him when he was asking for peace? And the heaviest of all, Was his gift also his curse? The industry made statements. Artists posted tributes. Festivals dedicated sets to him. But behind the scenes, the conversations were uncomfortable. For years, the music industry had pushed artists beyond their limits. Exhausting touring schedules. No time for recovery. No room for humanity. Avicii had spoken about it. He had warned them. He had said, "I was going to die. I was scared. I didn't want to keep going." But most people did not listen. And now, they wished they had. In the months after Tim's passing, something unexpected happened. People all around the world began opening up about mental health. Men who were taught to never show emotion began talking. Artists admitted their exhaustion. Fans spoke about how Avicii's music kept them alive during their darkest times. He was gone, but even in his absence, he was saving lives. Because his story forced the world to confront something uncomfortable. Success does not mean happiness. Fame does not mean peace. Talent does not mean strength. Sometimes the brightest souls burn the fastest. Tim left behind something else. Something powerful. Something unfinished. Music. Hundreds of melodies. Unfinished songs. Voice notes. Projects. Ideas. Little pieces of his heart stored in hard drives. His family and collaborators began listening to them carefully, respectfully, painfully. They didn't want to exploit him. They didn't want to use him. They wanted to honor him. And that's how the album Tim was born. The music was emotional, deep, reflective, haunting. Songs that sounded like they were written by someone who carried both beauty and burden inside him. The lyrics spoke softly, but truthfully. "I don't want to be the center of the universe, but I'm the universe to you. We don't get to die young. Trouble keeping our heads sometimes. Can you hold me tightly? I don't want to be alone." The world listened differently. Not as fans, but as witnesses. Because now, everyone understood what the music was trying to say. Avicii wasn't trying to entertain. He was trying to communicate. To explain the weight he felt. To make others feel understood. There was another layer to Tim that most people didn't know. He wasn't just emotional. He was deeply philosophical. After retiring, he began reading religious texts, spiritual studies, and existential writings. From Taoism to Buddhism. From mindfulness to meditation. He searched for meaning, not success. For peace, not applause. He wrote journal entries where he asked questions like, why do we suffer? What is the purpose of life? What does it mean to be happy? What does it mean to be free? These weren't the questions of a celebrity. They were the questions of a poet. And perhaps that was the real Tim. Not the DJ, not the superstar, not the festival king, but the quiet thinker who felt the world too deeply. And yet, even in death, his story wasn't over. His foundation was created to help mental health awareness and suicide prevention. His life became a lesson, one that echoed globally. World must learn to protect its sensitive souls, the gentle ones, the dreamers, the creators, because they are the ones who feel the world in high definition. Their hearts are open, their empathy is boundless, their love is pure, but that also means their pain is raw. Years later, when fans listen to his music, there is a bittersweet feeling. Happiness, because the melodies are beautiful. Sadness, because they understand the person behind them struggled. And yet, that is the extraordinary thing. His music still heals, even though the creator could not heal himself. This is what makes Avicii's story unforgettable. He didn't live long. He didn't live loud. He didn't live for attention, but he lived deeply. And depth leaves a mark that time cannot erase. Today, when the nights plays, people smile with tears in their eyes. These are the nights that never die. They never did. They never will. Because Avicii did not just make music. He gave the world moments, memories, hope, light. He gave us something we still carry. And somewhere, in some quiet place, maybe his soul finally found the peace he was searching for. In the end, Avicii's story teaches us something far more powerful than fame, success, or music charts could ever show. We often look at stars and assume their brightness means they are unbreakable. But sometimes, the brightest lights carry the deepest shadows. Tim showed the world that even when someone seems happy, loved, and admired, they may still be fighting battles we cannot see. His journey reminds us to check on the quiet ones, the ones who smile for others, the ones who give more than they receive, the ones who make the world feel lighter, while carrying their own weight in silence. Avicii did not just leave behind music. He left behind a message. Be kind, be gentle, be real, and never be afraid to ask for help. Fame is loud, but peace is quiet. And sometimes, It's the quiet we forget to honor. If this story touched your heart, then let it stay with you. Let it remind you to slow down, to breathe, to care for yourself and those around you. Because every life matters, every struggle matters, and every person deserves to feel safe inside their own mind. Thank you for watching. And if you felt a connection here, even a small one, know that you are not alone. Come back anytime. There are more stories, more voices, more souls worth remembering. We'll be here, waiting to share them with you again.